Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success. Today on Expedition Networking, we have Michael Levitt. He is the founder and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, and that's a San Diego and Toronto-based burnout media firm. He is an in-person and certified virtual speaker, a certified NLPA, neuro-linguistic processing, correct?
Programming, yep.
Yeah, programming, thank you. And a CBT therapist, a Fortune 500 consultant, and an author of the new book, Burnout Proof. Michael hosts the Breakfast Leadership Show, a top 200 global podcast on iTunes. Michael, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you today, Frank.
What is CBT therapy?
Cognitive behavioral therapy. So the behaviors of individuals and how those behaviors dictate and impact your entire life, and getting an understanding of how your behaviors and your thought patterns, which ties into the NLP, how those things shape your world, and getting a better understanding of how you think and how you behave and how you act can give you better insights into making some adjustments if you feel it's necessary to make some adjustments in your life to get to where you want to be in life. Gotcha.
I think we are in the golden age of really kind of learning about us. I mean, we know so much about everything but us, and the sciences and why things work in the physical world. Why stars do this or that, and now we're really learning about us. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, exciting time.
Yeah. Now, this just didn't happen. I mean, you got a great podcast, you got a book, you got a huge following. Can you take us through the journey of where, how Michael Levitt got to this point in time?
Yeah. Back in 2007, I was hired as a healthcare executive for a startup healthcare organization just outside of Windsor, Ontario, Canada. A dual citizen. I was born in the U.S. and immigrated to Canada in 2004 and started working at this organization 3 years later. And working at that clinic, is if anybody's ever worked in a startup for entrepreneurs, it basically kind of feels like you've traded a 9 to 5 for a 9 to midnight type of role. And I was working some insane hours, basically from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week for a couple of years, and doing all kinds of different things. I was recruiting physicians, hiring staff, educating the community why our clinic was better than the other clinics in the area, working with government funders, a variety of different things, and just burning the candle at multiple ends. And it all came to a crashing halt in May of 2009, which I refer to as my year of worst case scenario. So from May 2009 to May 2010, over a period of 369 days, I had a heart attack that should have killed me. I lost my job during the Great Recession. My car was repossessed and my home foreclosed, all in a year. So heart attack, job loss, car repo, home foreclosure, all in a year. And all of those things happened because I was burned out. My burnout created all of those scenarios. My behaviors, my thoughts, my beliefs all led up to me being completely burned out, which created bad choices as far as what I was doing at work. Nutrition choices were bad, being irritable with family and friends, not doing things in life that I enjoyed doing. So it literally, took a year to just completely wipe my year out. And after surviving all of those things, and if you think about each of those losses, a heart attack, I was 40 years old at the time. You're not supposed to have heart attacks at 40.
Right.
That's reserved, unfortunately, for people that tend to be much older than that. But I had that. And then, of course, losing your job in the Great Recession and being in the Midwest and being across the border from Detroit, not a good place to be without a job during that time, because the auto sector was on its last legs and getting government bailouts, and it just wasn't a good time to be looking for a job. And of course, the car repossession and the home foreclosure all came about because you didn't have a job. I was paying $1,000 a month for medication, and on unemployment. So you have to make choices. Do I eat and take these meds to keep me alive, or do I make the car payment? Well, I chose to stay alive. And, the bank, rightfully so, exercised the right to take back the vehicle because I was unable to make the payments. And the same thing with the house. But after going through all of those things, I realized, okay, I have some choices here. I can go around town saying, hey, I'm Superman. I survived all that. Look at me. Or realize I have been given a second chance. And when your cardiologist tells you, as he's getting ready to perform surgery on your heart after a heart attack, saying, you don't know how lucky you are to be alive right now, that is a wake-up call. And that's how I chose it. I'm like, okay, I have to make some significant adjustments to my life because I don't ever want to go through that again. And I did. And it took a little bit of time. My only regret is I didn't work with a therapist when I was going through this. I did it all on my own, which kind of lengthened the recovery time a bit. But ultimately, what it determined was, okay, I know that burnout created all those things. What do I need to do to make sure that I never burn out again? What are those components of burnout? What happened? Why did all these things occur to me? So I can make adjustments in how I behave, how I think, boundaries in my life, all those things. And once I determined all of those things, my life completely turned for the better. I went back into the healthcare career. My parents wanted to have me committed. They're like, you're going back to the field that nearly killed you?
Right.
And I said, I know that I can do this better. And I did. And I was in the field for several years before I left to do the breakfast leadership stuff. But I learned how to prevent burnout. I learned the signs of it. I learned what I needed to do as far as to prevent it. And once I did that, I had no intention when I was going through that rebuilding of my life to say, hey, let's launch a business about this. That was never across my mind until I started paying attention to my colleagues in the healthcare sector. And I was seeing so many people going down the same road that I did.
Right.
And it scared me. And is basically trying to be, a modern day Paul Revere and say the burnout is coming, but it wasn't, they were like, no, I'm just going to work through it. It's like, which is a common response of people that are burned out. They're like, I'm just going to work through it. And it's like, nah, you have to do some work, but you can't work through it. You got to work within it and figure out what is causing this and get back to a more even state. And then from there, you can start, making whatever adjustments you need to make in your life. For most people that burn out, they don't have to reinvent themselves. In my case, I had to because of my behaviors and everything else that was going on in life. So after recognizing, okay, they're not getting this, I started researching burnout a little bit more. And I thought, okay, I need to start writing about this. So let's, start sharing stuff on social media. Let's look at some research. Let's read some books about it and whatnot. And from there, I thought, there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for me to maybe launch a business. So me being, in my previous career before I was in healthcare, I was in IT and finance. So I knew the dealings of businesses, but actually launching one, even though I was in a startup, it's still somebody else's business. Launching one myself, I'm like, okay, I need to understand about marketing. I need to understand about branding. I need to understand about social media and all of these things. So I started reaching out and researching, okay, what kind of conferences can I invest in to go to and learn about these things to be a better business leader? And I was still in the healthcare role when I was doing this, so I, utilized it obviously for everything, from being a good business person in the role that I had, but also for personal growth as well. So I started reaching out and researching people. That's where I met the likes of a Carrie Oberbrunner, who runs Author Academy Elite and all the other fun things that Carrie does, and Steve Olsher out in San Diego for podcasting and branding and marketing and things like that. So I started reaching out to these individuals because they had their own success and they were teaching people how to figure out what they need to do. And working with the likes of those individuals and talking with different people and learning the skills that I needed to learn to grow the business has been absolutely amazing. I honestly feel it has shortened the time for me to get to where I am right now, because I went with those wise individuals. I invested properly, and there's no shortages of online courses or leaders or people have done it. But for me, it's like, and there are some that I've invested in that didn't really work out. At the end of the day, those are a couple names that jump out at me time and time again when I think back of, okay, how did I get to here? And it's networking with those people and within their network of different people that I talk with that has made this all possible. It's we've heard the old Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation. I think in this world today, it's pretty much a 0 degree of separation from people. It's like I know somebody that'll know somebody, that it's like we're so connected, especially when you get into the kind of work that we do. You mention names, you go, well, I know them because I've done this, and it's just one of those things where you like, how do you know them? And it's like then you realize, wow, it's like the globe is getting smaller and smaller, which is a beautiful thing.
No, it absolutely is. I just got off a call with a woman that is down in Jacksonville, Florida, that I met through a woman who is based in India. It's go 9,000 miles to meet somebody who's just a couple thousand miles away. It's fascinating. We all do learn on a different ways. I guess, how did you get the insight that, hey, I need to reach out to people? Was that a suggestion, or just, hey, I'm going to take a chance on this? Or
for me, and it goes actually back to when I was recovering from my heart attack, because years and years ago, I used to love to read. I read a lot. I started reading at a very early age as a child, loved reading. And then as time went on and started going to college, the reading kind of switched from for pleasure to textbooks and all of that. And then started my career, got married, started having kids. So the reading thing kind of fell by the wayside. And then one of the things that should have been a big red flag for me before my heart attack in 2009 was actually in the fall of 2008. I had taken a week off of work, and I'm like, I need to get away from computers and work and all this kind of stuff. And I went to the library, and I hadn't, read a book for pleasure in a long time. So I'm like, I don't even know what I want to read. So I kind of wandered over and I saw like business leadership, and I don't even remember what book I grabbed because I grabbed the book and I sat down in the chair and tried to read it, and I couldn't relax my mind enough to focus on what I was reading. That should have been a real red flag for me right there and then. There's a problem here. But after about 10 minutes, I closed the book, put it back on the shelf, and left. Now, after my heart attack, I had 17 weeks before going back to work to a job that they didn't want me back at. But during that 17 weeks, one of the things that I did for recovery was reading. I started reading a lot of books. I was actually doing book reviews through Thomas Nelson Publishing, because Michael Hyatt, who I had been following online for a while, was the publisher or the CEO of at that time for there before he launched his own business, and was part of their book review club. So they'd send me a book for free, and I'd read it. And I did a bunch of book reviews, and I started reading. And one of the things that either he said or it was something in a book, and I don't exactly remember where, it was, don't go it alone. Go figure out, you don't know what you don't know. So that's why you need to go out and network and meet with different people and talk about different things, because it gives you insights to things that you haven't learned yet, and they can give you a path to take. And what I found time and time again is, when I'm out networking with people and I'm going to different events and talking with different people and in whatever line of business that they're in, I'm going in there with the opportunity, one, to give, and also to learn, and and have it go both ways, not necessarily to generate business, but to learn some things. And okay, how are you successful in your business? What are some things that you do? How do you engage your clients? What, all of these kind of things, because, and then I share, this is what's worked for me or for people that I know that are in a similar line of business. This is some things that they do, or this is a tool that they use and things like that. It's going in there just to give and to learn. And when I do that, I find that, again, saying, going back to what I said earlier, I think it's expedited some things as far as where I am in business right now.
Yeah.
If I would have just said, I'm just going to do this by myself and just study and read, it's like, no, you got to reach out and talk with different people and learn different skills, invest in learning new things, because there's always opportunities to learn new things, and there's no shortage of opportunities. You just have to, find the right ones that work for you. And when you do that, it does a world of good for the people you serve, your own business and life, and everything in between.
No, I think that's great. The question I always tend to throw out at guests is, what advice would you give to a younger version of yourself? Would it be something along those lines?
I'd give myself a couple pieces of advice.
Okay.
Number one, quit stressing about things. Secondly, my original career was in public accounting, so I worked for a CPA firm, did tax season and all of that kind of good stuff. My second piece of advice would have been, don't make so much fun of marketing. Maybe pay a little bit more attention to that, because it will save you, a few decades down the road when you launch your own business. Because as an accountant, all we did was complain that marketing was spending too much money, and we're crunching numbers. We don't care about the marketing of things, but if you don't market your CPA firm, no one's going to come to you to get their taxes done or have their audits done. So that was a very incorrect bias that I had in my youth. So that would definitely be something that I would tell the 25-year-old version of me.
That's great information. I'm going to share that with my son, because he's in college and he's getting finance and accounting, and we talked to him about marketing classes, and he kind of like, I don't know. It's
no, take them.
Yeah,
take them.
I think it's important.
It's crucial. What it does is, and just looking back at it now, is it's using a different part of your brain. The accounting and finance and the crunching numbers and all that tends to use, a certain part of your brain power, where the marketing is a more creative and understanding and connecting and working with people. And, sometimes accountants and finance people can be introverted, but in this world that we're in the ever changing world that we're in, being able to engage with people and learning those skills are going to make a big difference. Because my original career was accounting, and then I was in IT, and then healthcare executive and nonprofit executive to business owner and speaker and all this stuff. You look at different, it's like, wow, you've done a lot. It's like, yeah, because I've been able to pivot and make some adjustments in life when it made sense to do so. But if I didn't learn along the way the things, then I would probably still be working at an accounting firm, dreading the next 3 months because it's tax season again.
Yeah.
So, and I certainly don't miss that aspect of it.
No, I spent 6 years in Big Six, and I get it. I totally get it. One thing is kind of rolling around in my mind. What do you do to relax? What do you do with your downtime? You take downtime now, right? So it's yeah. So
a lot of things. It depends on the season.
Sure.
I'm very fortunate that I live really close to nature trails, so I make it a point to go to the nature trail, which is literally within walking distance of me of where I live in Toronto. So it's literally a 5-minute walk to, from leaving a condo building to watching ducks in a river and nature and all of that stuff. And you can look through the trees and see the condo building, but then you're like, wait a minute, I'm in this nature trail. It's like, it's neat and surreal in the same way. Doing that, reading for pleasure, again, is, something that I've loved all the time. I love sports, so I love watching sporting events. And, with, this pandemic, that was one of the things that I missed, especially in the early days when there really wasn't any sports going on. I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much this was a part of my life. And watching it, and typically a lot of times it's in the background when I'm doing something else or I'm just relaxing, listening to it, in radio or whatnot. I grew up in Detroit, so I'd fall asleep to Tiger games. So I'd put the Tiger game on, and Ernie Harwell would be, talking about different things. And I'd wake up in the morning, and JP McCarthy on WJR, would wake me up in the morning. I'm like, okay, who's this man talking to me as I'm trying to wake up? But it's like a little surreal. But yeah, but I always enjoy doing that. So it's if listening to a sporting event at night is kind of white noise for me to be able to fall asleep. And for other people it's different things, but for me, it's one of those things that as a youth it helped me fall asleep. So it's natural for it. So I enjoy sporting events because sports is a way, although it's kind of meshing a little bit because you're seeing a lot of sports figures getting a lot more political and involved in what's going on in the world, more so than we've seen in the past. But sport is a way where you see competition, and it can be kind of a let's step away from the normal day to day and take time and enjoy this sporting event. And I'm looking forward to being able to physically go to those events again, because that's again another thing that we haven't been able to do since this pandemic, but we will again, in the next, maybe later in 2021, or it could be 2022, depending on what all happens. But
Yeah.
we know we'll be able to. And I look forward to doing that, because what I find is those things that you enjoy doing that relax you are singular in nature. You can't multitask them. I can go to the nature trail and I'm not on my iPhone while I'm at the nature trail. I'm looking around at nature. There's ducks. I have some duck food that I feed if I see them, and otherwise it's birds. And I know there's coyotes in there too. I've seen a couple of them. I don't go close to them. I like, no,
Sure.
I'm gonna let you have your space. No, that is not a dog. So it looks like it, not one. So,
Yeah.
but those are the kind of things. And for everybody, they have something that's different that they enjoy doing. But I always implore people, you know what? Do those things. Schedule 2 or 3 of those things every week, and it helps you keep your stress at bay. And if you keep your stress low, prolonged stress turns into burnout. If you don't have stress, you won't burn out. So if you keep the bad stress at bay and keep it minimized, it won't turn into burnout.
Let's switch gears. Let's talk about your business here real quick as we finish up. How could people help you? I mean, what do things you have going on? That would be, I'm sure people are interested.
Yeah.
People know people who are suffering burnout,
Right.
or they might be them. They might be them.
Yeah, for me, the work that I've been doing, especially during the pandemic, is a lot of public speaking. So speaking at conferences, albeit virtually, of course, but speaking at conferences and working with teams that are concerned that their teammates and employees are stressed and burned out. And this pandemic has really done a number with a lot of people, because there's so many facets of the burnout or the stress that is leading to burnout, whether it's the homeschooling or working remotely or can't see family or friends, or all the aspects that we're unfortunately well aware of. So there's been organizations that bring me in to talk with their teams to work through some of those things so they can get back to a more even state, get the stress reduced. And then the deeper work ultimately comes in trying to figure out, okay, why did I burn out? What happened? What were the steps I took? Because you don't wake up tomorrow morning and go, oh, I caught burnout. I wish it was that simple. It takes time.
Right.
And getting ahead of it, and the organizations that are being proactive about it are like, we don't want our team burning out, because we lose them, we're dead in the water. So let's get things back to normal for these people and help them navigate through these ever-changing times that we're facing, to the point where they can do what they need to do and harmonize the other challenges that we're all facing right now. So when the pandemic is over and we get to whatever the next normal looks like, they'll be better suited and they won't be completely wiped out from what has transpired to us. And I work with individuals as well, although I tend to work more with teams just from a timing standpoint.
Right.
But again, it's the same exercise. It's like, okay, let's figure out how to get you to a state where you're not burned out. Okay, once that, or stopping the bleeding, basically. And then from there, you start doing the work on, okay, what happened that led us to this burnout situation? Okay, now let's see what we can adjust so you can make sure that doesn't happen again. Because it pains me to hear people say, I've been burned out 3 or 4 times. So I was burned out once and it nearly killed me. So I don't want to flirt with that ever again. And I don't want people to do it. And unfortunately, with this pandemic, I'm seeing a lot of people going down that path that I went down, and it does scare me. So that's why I'm out. That's why I'm writing the I wrote the book and, speaking at events and doing all kinds of things because I want to get that word out that you don't have to be burned out. There's things you can do even in the middle of a pandemic that can help you prevent from burning out. And if you can do that, you're going to be a lot better off in the short term and the long term.
Sounds great. Should we direct people to breakfastleadership.com? Would that be a good place to direct people to?
Yep. And my email is michael@breakfastleadership.com. Feel free to send me an email. More than happy to have a conversation with you or your team to eradicate burnout from your life.
All right. Well, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Frank.
To wrap things up, remember, we're looking for some enterprising business types to join our team as franchisees of AmSpirit Business Connections. Our franchisees work with entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals in their area to help them become more successful through networking and the exchange of quality business referrals in a structured weekly morning meeting. This is a unique franchise opportunity, you see, because these meetings are in the morning. A successful business type or professional can add this franchise opportunity onto what they're already doing. Again, all of our franchisees do something else. For a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week, these franchisees work the AmSpirit Business Connections model. The rest of the time, they're attorneys, accountants, realtors, coaches, and consultants of various kinds. The wonderful thing is that not only do our franchisees realize a financial gain from operating the AmSpirit Business Connections model, but the business networks that they build and develop become a great source of referrals for their primary business as well. Perhaps you know someone, perhaps you are that someone. Whatever the case, to learn more about the AmSpirit Business Connections franchise opportunity, please contact me using the email in the show notes or the one we provide at the end of this program.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.